I keep it streaming.
He absolutely did. I'm pretty sure I saw part of it. Well, I saw that he was doing one.
Good.
I don't know if I don't know like what. I'm not sure what they were talking about. It was a busy day today.
I always space out that they're even doing them.
Do you? Sometimes
until
they're quite fun.
I might watch it later, but I mean, I'm usually so busy.
Well, dude, today
I like to be distracted.
We were super busy. Hey, everybody, this is Matt, and we're at Texas Toast Guitars. Thanks for tuning in to our 1-hour Thursday live stream.
Yes.
Where Chris and I talk about all the pertinent details that you need to know going on in the guitar building industry, such as what knife company is sponsoring us now.
Yeah. And how do we get in on some of those sweet short deals?
No. There actually is a knife company sponsoring us now. Did you know that?
I did know that.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell everybody about it?
And it's Gerber brand. So I made
this isn't the baby food brand.
No.
Completely different brand.
So if you don't know, well, so this is Gerber has made everything from like gigantic, like Rambo knives to this, which this might be one of the smallest things that they make. And our good friend and dangerous brother, Dave Chenzoff, kind of hipped us to these. I was carrying something not unlike this, but it had a full-size like utility knife on it. And it was cool, but this is cooler. Now, I still like that utility one because the blades are easier to change and they're easier to get and stuff like that. But for a guitar maker, you have to have one of these. And so Joy contacted some people, and Gerber Knives was one of them. And so they're an affiliate link now, and we're gonna have more stuff from them coming soon.
That's cool.
I know you're not like a super knife. You don't like carry around and I don't know.
No, I carry that one with me every day, all the time, except for when I forget it because I set it down here during a class or something like that. And the next day I'm like, I better be in the shop. I used to have two.
You gave one away.
I gave one away. Yeah, because I was always afraid I was going to lose it. But it's also like sunglasses. If you have more than a couple pairs of sunglasses, you end up losing one or you sit on one. So I love this thing because it's got the knife and it's a really fine tip point, so you can get into really, really tight spots with it.
When you're opening boxes from Amazon,
when you're like taping, masking, doing important things, or slicing cheese.
Whatever.
It's got the bottle opener or the paint can opener, which I actually do use a lot.
Yep.
When we're doing paint stuff.
And you can use part of it as a screwdriver for
I like to choke myself with the lanyard every once in a while.
Don't, sir. But anyway,
it does have the bottle opener too.
Yeah.
And I was at a concert, an in the park concert, and this guy was like, "Hey, has anybody got a bottle opener?"
I'm not saying
later he's like, "Hey, could I borrow the bottle opener?"
Yeah,
again?
no, you can't.
Like, get your own.
Yeah, get your own BO. So bottle opener. So the other thing is, I'm not suggesting that you do this, but because I don't know, but I think like I made it past the security guards at the baseball game with this.
Oh, really?
Or day before yesterday.
Yeah. And for those of you that don't know, I don't know that we've ever talked about this. They use X-Acto knife blades, and you can buy a whole lot of these X-Acto knife blades for not a lot of money.
Yep.
So
you always have
always have a really, really sharp one. Yeah. As soon as it starts getting dull, just swap it out. No big deal.
All right. So Gerber brands. So that was a real thing, and I think it's cool because I have a lot of Gerber knives.
You do. I watched the.
You didn't even know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
I was like, good Lord.
Yeah.
Psycho much?
So anyway, but let's talk, Chris, before we get too much further into the weeds here.
For as many Gerber knives as you have,
I
think I have one bicycle.
Yeah, I bet.
And for those of you that watch the video, you'd be like, Chris has a lot of bicycles.
Yeah.
Where does he keep them all? everywhere.
All over the place.
They're hanging from the rafters, literally over the old Buick. There's 3 of them, or 4 of them hanging over the car.
Well, maybe we should get a bike company to, actually we have already. Did you know that?
Yes.
Yeah. We're going to talk more. We're going to talk more about some of these affiliate links coming up in the coming weeks. But for those of you who don't know, actually, yeah, Gerber is we're affiliate link with Gerber.
That's really cool.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but today, Chris, actually all week long, we've been boxing stuff up, and we shipped 8 or 9 guitars today?
8.
Okay. So if you're waiting on a guitar, chances are it went out today. So like Mike Beckloff's getting one, Challenger Level 1 went out, a JJJ went out, Mike Durbin went out,
all 3 of Blues, Brian's, a couple class guitars, a whole bunch of stuff, with more to come. There's another one waiting for an address. Actually, that's Mike Durbin's. It didn't go out.
Oh, okay. We've got Mark Danner has 2. Is that Mark Danner?
Mark Dresser.
Mark Dresser has 2 that are ready
very close.
Ready to
By
go.
The end of the day tomorrow, they'll both be ready.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of guitars getting shipped out. So I hope that you guys have I don't know what I hope. But it's just been kind of a whirlwind.
That it's worth the wait, and that you like the guitar.
I know they will. These are so nice. Hey, speaking of which, I think we need to start making some more basses.
Okay.
Because the bass that I ended up selling Doug Santaniello the other day, God, I really love that.
You want it back?
No, I don't want it back, but I'm like, I should make another one of that. What do you remember? What was that, ash or alder? It was alder, wasn't it? With a top. It was. Brad Guitar Miller says mine. Oh, holy mackerel. We still got to do Brad Guitar Miller's. Brad, we're going to get yours done tomorrow. You know the one? It's right over here.
I do know the one.
I totally spaced it out. Thank you, Brad.
Weeks throw me for a loop, and I forget everything that's happened prior to that.
Yes, Brad, yours will go out ASAP.
Totally spaced it out. Yours not the only one.
Yeah. I totally forgot about that. And we took off Monday and Tuesday because we didn't have any time off for the last
10
days.
10 days. Yeah. I was frazzled by Sunday. You can probably tell in the video. I was I was happy tired. Is that a thing?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Cecil Music asks a good question. And I think we should take some time to answer it, but let's get back to what we're talking about before. But he asks, when I hear luthiers mention fall away, what exactly is that? Can we show it on that red? Can we have a visual aid? Yeah. Well, it'd be better because that one's going to be. Or do you want to save that for tomorrow?
No, we can show it up tomorrow too.
Okay, Brad, don't be sad. We just forgot for just a moment. It's gonna be okay.
We would have remembered.
Yeah. So fall away is on these last, 5 or 6 frets down here. And it's where these frets are a little lower than all the other frets. So when you're leveling them, the idea is that you level these guys. Well, okay, so let's just say for the sake of conversation, if these frets were 100 tall, these would be 75 tall. Or if these were 50 tall, these would be 25 tall. Well, or something like that. Don't quote me on the actual numbers, but that's what it means. And the reason they do that is because on acoustic guitars, especially, there's this kind of hump that naturally happens.
They call that
time.
The Colorado hump here in Colorado.
Yeah.
It's a dryness thing.
It's not a big deal. It's not as big a deal on electric guitars, but it's a bigger deal with acoustics. So I think that acoustic guitar makers add some fall off to here to kind of compensate for a little bit of that.
And the idea is that, as you increase, as you get up here, this fret doesn't need to be in line with this fret.
No.
Because this fret has nothing to do with when you're playing this fret.
No.
So as I flip everybody off,
that's okay.
Yeah. So these can be lower, and that means that your action can actually be lower, just in case. Because sometimes what a neck will do is, it's flat, 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 and then it kind of humps, right? So you're trying to get rid of that, and it can happen on an electric.
It can, like I said, it's not as big of a deal on electrics as it is on acoustics. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but this kind of leads very nicely, Chris, into our conversation that we want to have tonight. Would you buy a guitar with that feature?
Yes.
So let's talk about some features that people. Some of them are going to be like features that are sure to start controversy.
Can I put this one away?
And so thank you to Cecil, who asked, what does fall away mean? So there are probably some people who wouldn't buy a guitar unless it had some fall away on it.
Yeah.
Or that would absolutely, if I said, hey, do you want fall away? Yeah, I want that. So let's talk about some of these features, Chris, that people, some of them are going to be like things that I'm like, well, I wouldn't buy that. And some people will be like, oh, I got to have that. And the reason that we're bringing this up is one of the videos that we've made recently was about stainless steel frets.
Okay.
That's a feature that, like, who would buy that? And Dylan had one today, and I don't want to steal any of Dylan's thunder in case he wants to talk about it later, but 22 fret necks. And so let's talk about some features that some guitar players got to have, and some that are like, nah, I don't really care. And some that are like, why on earth would you want that?
Okay.
So if you want to talk about a specific feature, or if you don't know what something is, send me a bunch of question marks, or you can do like what Brian Duncan just did and send a super chat. We see all of those. Brian said, it looks like your beers are low. Brian, we just started. I mean, maybe, but
they will be. Don't worry, Brian.
Yeah.
You know us.
So Ken Tipton wants to talk about locking tuners, but first let's talk a little bit more about the fall away.
Okay.
And then we're going to get to all of your comments about features that some guys may or may not like to have. So fall away, Chris, what do you say? Would you buy a guitar if it did didn't have that?
I would buy a guitar either way. I think a lot of guitar builders probably put fall away in it, but they never really talk about it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And what about on like a Strat?
Sure.
I've seen one of the reasons that I say that is I remember many, many years ago watching a guitar YouTube channel where a guy spent weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks refretting a Strat neck. And he was talking about fall away and how he wanted to put some fall away on. And I'm like, it seems a little odd on a Strat neck to put fall away, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. So some of this comes down to, that whole idea of relief and how much relief is too much relief.
Yep.
You are of the opinion that any relief is too much relief. But I do, and it's fun. It's fun to play with that little digital StewMac string gauge, string height measurer, and measure at the 12th fret and then measure at like the 22nd fret and see just what's going on there and tweak the truss rod and watch it do all this crazy shit.
Yeah, man.
I think on a dead flat neck, there's not a whole lot of reason for fall away unless you want the action really, really, really low.
I think the action gets higher on a flat fretboard neck, on a neck that's perfectly flat. If you have fall away on the last few frets, that the action there would be higher.
Yeah, it does get
higher. It wouldn't be lower. It would actually be higher.
In the playing zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
So I rarely build in fall away unless somebody asks for it.
Sometimes I do it just as a matter of course, and it's probably not a whole lot. I've never actually measured it, but sometimes leveling
just
those
kind of
last
a few,
frets. Yeah, I have a thing that I do, a little pattern that I do, and it adds probably very, very, very little.
Yeah. Okay, so Ken Tipton asks, locking tuners are a must. And then he put a bunch of question marks after it. And I think he put that because he wanted me to see it, not because he was questioning whether they are or aren't a must.
Okay.
I think that locking tuners are a really cool and significant upgrade to most guitars. However, if you're a guy who experiments with tuning a lot, locking tuners might not be for you.
That's true.
I have a Strat at home that I was like, oh, I'm gonna do that that open G tuning, and the tuners had so little movement, I couldn't get all the way down
to G
before it started coming back around again and going back up. So so yeah, that's something to think about too. So really, what I'm getting at is you should have many guitars with the same guitar. You should probably have 2 of every guitar, and one of them should have locking tuners and one should have regular tuners, probably.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I suspect, Chris, is that guitar players, if you were to ask them, would you rather have one guitar that did everything or 10 guitars that each did one thing? I think that they would say, I want more guitars because guitars are cool.
Yep. And I probably want all 10 of those guitars to almost be the same.
Almost be exactly the same. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what else. Oh, whoa. So what do you say about locking?
I think locking tuners are cool. I like them on some guitars better than others. Hardtail, for some reason, locking tuners on a guitar with a tremolo or a vibrato, I like better. On a hardtail kind of a thing, I'm fine with either.
Yeah.
Honestly, if Hipshot made a vintage safety post, with the hole down the middle, that would be my only tuner.
That'd be your go-to
thing
tuner.
I would use. Yeah.
Have we ever looked? Do they do that?
No, they don't.
Okay.
The only reason I don't like, and locking tuners are the same way. You have this little chunk of string, and invariably at some point I get stabbed.
It is unsafe.
Unsafe at any speed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Ralph Nader.
So the questions are coming in. Let's
they
Curtis,
are heavier. I do like them on a 12 string.
I 100% agree.
I think Noah said the other day he doesn't care. He doesn't even.
He did. He said he didn't care either way. Let's see. Curtis asks, features: vintage style wraparound versus Hipshot for a junior style guitar. Hipshot does make one, but I have never used it. Like I've never used the Hipshot Tunomatic, or I've never used the Hipshot. We use the Hipshot bridges that we use, and they're fantastic. When it comes to wraparound bridges, I think those Tone Pros style bridges are, and that's what the Hipshot is kind of like.
Is it kind of like that? I like the one from Stu Mac too.
I do too, quite a bit.
I can't remember what it's called, but I like that.
The Golden Age.
Golden Age, yeah, that's it, because it adjusts every direction you need it to adjust.
But the individual saddles aren't height adjustable.
True. Yeah, that is true. But it does everything else.
Yeah. So I would say now one of the bridges that I really don't like, or some people really do like, are those. It's basically a stop bar tailpiece mounted at an angle, and then that's your bridge, which is fine. But
yeah. I like the way they look. It's cool looking.
Yeah.
Probably works okay up till.
How good does it really have to?
It depends on how you play and all that other kind of stuff. But plenty of guys play with those, so that's cool.
But I do like the wraparound style bridge that's got the string, stop, and bridge all built into one thing. I like that.
One of the funny things to me is a Tunomatic and a stop tail, kind of clunky in a lot of ways.
I think so too.
And yet people that seem to gravitate towards
desperately
that
love
over stuff that works better, that has way more adjustability and way more features to it than that old clunky thing. And you have to offset it. You have to offset a Tunomatic to make it work, which, you have all these nice square things, and all of a sudden the bridge does this. Yeah. And I've seen not just Tunomatics, but arch tops and things like that. I was watching Eddie Cochran video last night, and man, his was
there's no way.
45. I'm like, there's no way that guitar played well.
Well, who's the Jay Mascis? Like his Jazzmaster, the bridge saddles are all adjusted one way. I'm like, well, that's
way back or all the way forward. Yeah. There's so much noise though. It doesn't matter. It's all feedback.
Grudgemeyer asks, if building a new neck, would you use shorter frets for fall away? I don't see why not. I mean, you could.
You could.
Why?
We did a neck like that for Stu Lippa.
We did half of the frets
Half
were
of the
taller
frets
than
were taller
the
than the other half, and I have no idea how it worked out.
It worked
ultimately.
out fine.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, you know,
here's the problem with using two different sizes of fret wire. Here's the problem with having two different sizes of fret wire in this shop. Since we do workshops, everybody gets fret wire, and I'm stuck with like stuff like this. That if we had two sizes of fret wire, I wouldn't know just by looking at it. If we had a bunch of different sizes of fret, 10, 12, some of them were stainless, some of them were some other things, some of them were, you can't tell just by looking necessarily what it is.
no.
If you use one type of fret wire all the time, then it's easy to go, is this fret wire the same? Yes, it is. What you don't want to do is be going along and then all of a sudden put bigger fret wire in at the bottom, because then you'd have to, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Grind it down.
So while you could, it might be, it's the same idea, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think let's not overcomplicate frets by, you know, taller zero frets and smaller wire at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, just put the fret wire in, and if you want to do a little fall away, do a little fall away. It only takes a couple minutes.
Yep.
And go from there.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the more I think about it, the more I think, yeah, no fall away, at least not a huge amount.
Yeah.
If you're concerned with action up the neck.
Yeah. If anyone who says I got to have the lowest action possible also says I need to have some fall away at that, well, wait a minute. You can have one or the other, but you can't have both.
Our friend Scott Dahlhoover, who is a motherfucker on the guitar,
indeed,
can play.
Indeed.
And he wants the lowest action I've ever seen. And he is, because he plays so fast, he's fine with a little bit of fret buzz because his action is low.
Yeah.
And that's kind of an electric guitar thing, you know? I mean, through the amp with what he's playing, how fast he's playing.
Yeah, you're not going to.
Fret buzz is not a big deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I would say, and that brings us to another good question from Mike Beckloff, who asks specifically, Matt, what are you thinking on a dead flat neck? Why is it the way to go? Because the strings are flat. The strings don't have a bow in them.
Correct.
People often say, I have to have, usually what it is something like this. I like to take two green picks and put them under the 12th fret. No, the neck has to be dead flat because and people often think, well, the strings vibrate and they vibrate the most in the middle. So you have to have a bunch of relief in the, no, you don't.
What about if you're fretted at the 5th?
That's just it.
Then it changes the middle of the string, and they don't vibrate in the middle. They vibrate like this.
Yeah, and they don't vibrate up and down only. No, they vibrate
side to side, and it's a wave like this.
Yeah.
And as you play up, and so if your neck isn't completely flat, the action is going to be higher in the middle of the neck than it's going to be at the end. And the strings go from 15 thousandths at the nut to the first fret, you know, the amount that you push to, let's just say 60 at the 12th.
Okay.
As a nice round number to whatever it is at the end of the fretboard. Right. And it's this constant increase. And all of a sudden you put a curve in the middle of it.
It gets
wonky.
Yep.
Don't do it.
Yep. You don't need it. Nope.
Now, you know, the other thing is, you know, the amount of relief that most techs talk about is so freaking small.
And it's all done by eye.
Yeah. You look at it. But it's not, if you can see a curve.
Hold on. I should make that face again. So Devin Riddle can like,
yeah,
he can both set up.
If you're looking and you can see a curve in the neck, that's too much.
Well, and if you don't have a gauge, that you can read either a dial gauge or a digital gauge or something, and you're just sort of guessing, then you're just sort of guessing.
What year is it?
Well, I believe it's 2023.
Yeah. Do not use
No.
feeler gauges.
No. Feeler gauges
inaccurate way to measure.
are a sucky way to go.
That's
in
an old
2023.
school way to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have modern technology.
Yeah. So in fact, we have those StuMac string height gauges, and I bought 2 more of them today.
So now we have 6.
Yeah. And the reason I bought 2 more of them isn't because they all broke. It's because we have 6 guys in here and they need to know that I don't want them sharing stuff anymore. So we have these things, and it'll tell you. Now, we also have notched straight edges, so we can tell how much rake you got or how much relief you got in your neck, but unless you have those tools and you're just kind of setting stuff because you're a shade tree guitar setter upper, and maybe you're really good at it. But if you're just doing stuff because you think that's supposed to be done, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the case.
Yeah.
The real reason, the real way that you want your neck is dead flat. And there'll be people who fight me on that and go, no, you're wrong. And fine. You set your guitar up any way you want. But if you want an action that is so low that you say it's too low, put your neck dead flat.
Here is Dan Erlewine's specified neck relief. Are you ready?
I'm ready. What do you got there, Chris?
It's 10,000ths.
10,000ths.
It's a high E string.
Okay.
That's how much you want.
All right.
If you require neck relief, that's what Dan Erlewine suggests.
Cecil asks, were locking tuners invented to stay in tune better or for quicker string ups? And the answer is, I don't know.
I think yes on both. So the real deal with a locking tuner is that you minimize the amount of wrap that you have around that tuner to get the string to stay in place. And because it locks, you don't have to have a couple of wraps. And the wraps are where strings first come out of tune because they're not as tight as they can be. And you can jerk on them. And everybody talks about, that was real good. You can pull on them and, everybody talks about string stretch. Really, the first thing that happens is the string just tightens around that post. Sometimes you can even see it, as you do it. So the idea with a locking tuner is to minimize the amount of wrap. If you have a complete wrap around with a locking tuner, you've done it wrong.
You've done it wrong.
Or you have a tremolo and it's sagging and you keep having to tune. That's the other thing too. That's one of the reasons that I like locking tuners, especially for like Bigsby's and stuff like that. You just change one string at a time and the arm doesn't come all the way up, and then you got to slowly bring it down and tune and tune and tune and tune.
Here's the question. Curtis says the first use of locking tuners that I saw was replacing a locking nut to keep good tuning with a Strat style vibrato bar. I think that that locking tuners to replace a locking nut is a false economy. I think that's a good thing to tell people, but I don't think that in any way, shape, or form is a locking nut replaced by locking tuners. In fact, I don't even think locking tuners come close.
No, I don't think so. Maybe so Fender used that Wilkinson roller nut for a long time with locking tuners. That probably worked pretty well, especially with the trem that they have.
Yep. And the way that the strings come off
the locking nut stops the
neat thing about that roller
sliding
lock
over the nut.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea.
The cool thing though about that, remember the Wilkinson, the very first ones on the original Strat Plus, they're not the ones that they have now, but the string went, and I actually have one on my guitar. String goes over the roller and then under a bar, so you can have it holds it down too.
Okay, yeah.
So the locking tuners I do not think are in any way, shape, or form meant to replace a locking nut. And if you don't believe me, just ask the guys at Kaler who made the locking piece that went behind the nut, and that didn't work either.
Yeah.
As soon as you
drag any strings through that thing
you have a pinch point.
Yeah, a possible pinch
point.
Now, I would like to try. I've always wanted to do this because I hate locking nuts. I've broken so many strings.
And I'm not suggesting that locking nuts rule, but I am saying that
forgetting
for stability,
that they're locked. And I've played so many where they were just sort of snug.
Yep.
You know, and you could still tune and this and that. So I would like to try a properly prepared nut on a Floyd Rose equipped guitar with locking tuners, just to see.
Okay.
I think the locking nut is the overboard fix for guitars that weren't properly set up.
It depends on how much whammy bar you're using.
How much whammy? I am thinking that I could do it and make it whammy as much as you'd want it to whammy,
Maybe.
and it would still be fine.
Okay. Do you think it would be as good as a locking nut?
I think it might be better because you might be able to keep the damn thing in tune.
Okay. All
but
right.
maybe not.
I think that a good Floyd Rose with a properly set up everything should be the most stable guitar you own.
It should be, yeah.
And you should be able to dump that bar all the way down to make the strings go completely slack and have it pop right back up and be perfectly in tune.
Yep.
That's the theory behind the Floyd Rose. Now, if you have one that doesn't do that, maybe yours isn't set up right.
Yeah,
maybe you got a lousy one.
I think there's a lot of setup there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we built those guitars for Jim Fuller, I
remember
he dumped it and he didn't like ease it up. He let it go. Bing, and it was
fresh,
perfectly in tune.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still gonna go with I'm not a fan of the locking nut.
I'm not a fan of the locking nut either. But if you're a heavy whammy bar guy, then yeah. If you're a heavy dumper, then
why? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Tom L wants to know, in your opinion, is a high quality set of standard tuners much better than a cheaper set, and would they satisfy most people that think that they need locking tuners? I think that tuners are probably the most important mechanical thing on your guitar is the tuner.
I think so, yeah. And I think you don't have to spend a ton of money to have a really good tuner.
One of the things that this is what made me think of this, Chris. And
I'm going to shameless plug here in a minute. Go ahead, keep going.
Do you remember when we first did the first workshop we ever did? And we supplied every single thing, and everybody made kind of the same thing. And I was like, let's not skimp on tuners. We can skimp on everything else, like because the pickups, the guys will probably want to. Yeah. And I think we used like a fairly cheap bridge that was, but the bridge did everything that the bridge needed to do. But I'm like, if we skimp on the tuners, one, you're gonna have a bunch of holes in the back of the neck. Two, your guitar's not going to be good. Okay, so
yeah. So I mean, you don't have to spend $200 on a set of tuners to have really good tuners. You can spend $50 and get really good tuners that you know are going to work. And there's probably some other ones that are slightly cheaper, but for my money, and I used to be a huge vintage tuner guy, you know,
and you still are. You still like those.
I still like those, yeah. But for my dollar, you can't do any better than the Hipshot open gear. And whether it's locking or the regular, doesn't matter. They still turn ultra smooth. We've installed hundreds of those tuners on guitars.
Hundreds of sets of those.
I have had one bad tuner in hundreds of sets. They are fantastic. You can change the buttons. That's
a cool thing too. Yeah.
They don't look vintage, but you can put buttons on that make them look a little more vintage. Yeah. And the open gear thing is cool. I think that gives it a little vintage flavor. They're just really great, and they're not very much money.
What's the retail on those? I don't know. It's not $50.
No, I think it's $65, but
no, it's more than that, dude.
You can find, although, I mean, just go on eBay and buy them from Hipshot.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, like if you
second store.
Yeah, like because nobody pays full retail.
No, I don't think anybody buys Hipshot stuff from the Hipshot website. It's all yeah. So I mean, even if they're $60, it's worth it.
Yep.
I recently built a guitar and used some pretty basic tuners, and they were okay, but I was like, I should have just spent the extra money. And it was a $400 project.
Oh, okay.
So
Brian Duncan
the guy that
says
has it will know what we're talking about.
Brian Duncan says that he likes Tune-o-matics and Get Off His Lawn. Only he didn't do it in that voice.
Well, I like Tune-o-matics because of the just the look, and they have that that classic look. But when you start really digging into it, it's like,
Yep.
This could be better.
Doug Santaniello, our very good friend, says that he likes a 1.75 inch nut width.
Yeah.
He likes a roomier fretboard. Doug, Doug, I'm way up here, so I need to scroll down to the questions. How do you like that bass, man? I hope that you dig that as much as I did. I'm looking for the question marks coming up here. Okay, I hope I didn't miss anybody here, but Butch asks, is the only way to make blind fret slots with a CNC, or is there another way without? Well, there are lots of ways to do things. I don't know any good way to do it. I mean, you would have to, the easiest way to do that, Butch, would be to get, to use wood binding that is exactly the same wood as your fretboard. And they're gonna look like blind fret slots, and they're gonna be more or less blind fret slots.
Yeah, so you could, if a fretboard is 3 inches wide, you could when you trim it, then you use that wood to make your binding. And you use the piece closest to the part that you trimmed it. So hopefully you get a little bit of grain match. You could do it that way, and it usually looks pretty right.
Now, could you take a teeny tiny Dremel tool and do it? Yeah. Could you take a scraper? Yeah. The easiest way to do something like that, though, would be to cut fret slots all the way through, bind it with wood that matches your fretboard.
Okay.
Doug asks, Chris, do you think I could use Simtech Clear Gloss with airbrush to try and repair a spot on my Firebird?
Yes.
Okay.
I think you could. Dave sent his in. I'm going to try the same thing.
Okay. Cool. Well, we'll get back to you on that, Doug, if it works out.
I'll let you know how it works. Okay.
I keep thinking I'm missing some drop D. So Chris, what are some features on guitars that you're like, what's your top feature that you gotta have, and your top feature that you're like, why would anybody want that?
Boy, I don't know. You should have given me some time to think about
this.
This.
Tell you what,
top feature.
Tell you what, I'm not gonna put you on the spot.
Okay,
I'll let you think about it for a moment.
Okay.
And if you want to just agree with me, you can.
Okay.
My biggest one that I'm like, I don't know why anybody would want that, is the conical radius fretboard.
Yes,
I think
I would
even
actually
over stainless steel frets, which I'm kind of like, if you want it, fine. But
I don't buy a lot of guitars, none. But yeah, conical radius, I do not want that.
I think that most people get that thinking it's going to solve all sorts of problems, and I'm not saying it doesn't, that it creates problems. It just is kind of an answer to a question nobody really asked.
I think so. Yeah, I have enough other problems playing guitar. I don't need, that to be another problem.
I also don't play guitars with super tight radiuses. I like a 10 or a 12, and frankly, if you have a 10 or a 12, then you don't need to worry about having one of them be 16 or so.
Yeah. I used to be I was convinced that vintage 7 1/4 was the radius for me.
Okay.
And that was the thing that I looked for. And there were guitars that I passed up because they had, 9 1/2, 10, or 12 or 14 or whatever it is. And then as I got involved in this and started building guitars and started doing things, one of the first things that you and I ever did was we put a new fretboard on an old Yamaha, and it had a 7 1/4. We tore that fretboard off, but we put a new one on, and it was 12.
The only block I had was a 12, right?
Well,
the only radius block I had,
and 12 is a whole lot easier to hand sand than a 7 1/4. And I think you only had it, so we did it, and I put it on the guitar, and I was pretty concerned that I wouldn't be able to play that guitar.
Okay,
couldn't tell the difference.
Couldn't tell.
No. I guarantee there's not one single person in the world who, given a blind test will be able to tell what radius.
Yeah, to be able to go, that is this.
Correct.
Yeah.
With any degree of certainty.
Yeah.
And then when I go, nope, even if it is, I'm gonna say no.
Even if it is,
but yeah, it's a non-starter.
That would be a good video.
This is my favorite thing. Look, my fingers curve.
Wow,
look at that. I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a non-starter. It's the dumbest thing ever. I do think there's some stuff with fret height, fret width. Sure, those are things. Yeah, I have a guitar with impossibly low frets. Not the easiest thing to play.
Yeah. Ooh, did you turn the compressor
off?
It's
go off.
I think it is gonna go.
But I don't think radius is a thing
that
you should concern yourself with.
Yeah, I don't think. Brian Duncan says scallop frets. He just doesn't get it. He knows Yngwie does it, but he's not Yngwie. Let's see. Ken Tipton asked thoughts on tempered frets. They look ridiculous. I don't know what are those the ones that are like kind of squiggly lines and do the.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how you level and dress those.
I don't even know how you play that guitar.
Dylan referred to that too.
Yeah.
Dylan said I have to have strings.
Dylan, okay, yeah, the strings are definitely something that you're gonna want.
I look for strings, complete with strings.
Now with strings. Okay. Hey, Doc is here. Is Doc still in? He says Singapore, huh? That's cool. Joe McCarthy has a terrific question. I'm gonna say he's talking about the Texas Toast Super Casanova, StewMac Bridge or Mastery Bridge. I'm guessing he doesn't mean the StewMac wraparound bridge.
No, he means the StewMac Jazzmaster Bridge. Yep. That's a fairly basic piece of kit. I would choose Mastery every time.
Yeah, I would too.
The Mastery stuff is top end, and the StewMac one is slightly better than Squire.
Okay,
it really is.
All right.
Yeah, it's not even the Japanese Fender level of quality. I've played around with all of those.
I mean, we've never ever had an issue with the Mastery stuff.
No,
we had one thing with chrome plating. We called Master, and they're like, "Here, we'll send you a new thing."
A piece to me. Yeah. Their stuff's really fantastic, and the even if you don't buy the bridge, even if you just get the tremolo, it's awesome.
If I were building a Texas Toast Super Casanova for myself, and I couldn't have the Mastery bridge, I would just put a hardtail on it.
Yeah, I might put a Strat. I might put a Hipshot on it.
We've done those before too, haven't we? We did one or two like that, I think.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. There's another company called Descendant, and their bridge is very, very nice as well. Okay. And their tram is very, very nice.
Well, we weren't talking about Descendant versus Mastery. We're talking, okay.
Well, don't buy that amp. Look at this amp. That's what I want.
Did you know that the other day, you do know, you were with me and we went to Flipside Music, the great American guitar store, and Ike totally gave me the hard sell on a new bass amp.
Doesn't seem like that, but I mean, I was there.
No, he was pushing hard.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
No, Ike might be the master of the soft sell.
I think, yeah. Hey, this amp matches your eyes.
Yeah,
it's black. Yeah, he's. Yeah, well, it depends. What are you looking? Well, and then Matt went, okay, I'm going to take that one. That's the one I want. Yeah. Well, we got this one over here. We got the whole line. This is the most expensive one. No, well, here's the 112. Maybe you only need 112.
It wasn't a particularly expensive amp.
No, it wasn't.
But it wasn't
cheap.
The older I get, though, the more I want lightweight stuff. And as you know, I sold my big Ampeg because I got tired of moving in 95 pounds of amp and then another 200 pounds of speakers to go with it.
Into a small room.
Into the 12 volt. Yeah. So I think that having smaller gear is something that it took me 53 years to figure it out.
Except you're not 53 yet.
It took me 52 and 9 or 10 months.
Yeah, 9.
It took okay. It took nearly 53 years for me to figure out that heavy doesn't necessarily mean awesome. And sometimes you just need to get something in there. And I don't want to.
Except I think that rule has changed over the years, because there was a time when, you want awesome.
You have to have
heavy. Yeah. Everything else is a little bit of a sidestep. So, and that has changed.
Yeah. The thing is that we're playing out more now, and I'm like, if I don't want to dread load in and load out, I need to have a lighter amp. And so but anyway, I got me fixed up. So if you guys, I don't know if you know this, but Flipside Music, the great American guitar store, also sells bass stuff.
And bass amps.
I'm gonna take
guitars.
I'm gonna take my my old SWR, my old reliable SWR Redhead, which I not that long ago had the speakers recombed. I'm gonna take that down to Flipside and have Ike sell that one for me to try to offset the cost of my new lightweight. And the SWR, well, it's not exactly big, but it's not exactly light either. It's still 100 pounds.
It's a 2-man job to load it into a car.
When you get as old as me,
I mean, you don't want to hurt yourself, and it's just big enough that it's hard to pick up by yourself.
Yeah, it's kind of unwieldy.
Yeah.
So Joe McCarthy says use a pedal board and go right into the PA. Well, Joe, I have done that before, and that's some of my more favorite gigs that I've ever done where I just plugged my my Sans Amp VT bass pedal right into the PA.
One of the problems with that, at least for me, is then you're reliant on the sound man to feed you.
The real problem is if you've ever played anywhere that my band has played, you know that the 50-year-old PV monitors will not be able to hear.
And all of a sudden you can't hear yourself. So it's nice to be able to have an amp that you can hear yourself, that also has a direct out that they can plug in and mix. Because at least for me, my first job is to play well. And for me to play well, I need to be able to hear myself. If it sounds like shit in the club because the guy doesn't know how to mix, I have no control over that.
I would love to try in-ear monitors, but we're not to the point where I'm ready to drop the kind of money to do in-ear monitors.
God, man, when I've never tried those, but doing other things with in-ear stuff, I lose like connectivity with everything else that's going on with everybody else in the room a little bit. It's a little like being in a cave. So I don't think I would like that.
Okay.
I need to hear everything that's going on.
I like the kind of the live music aspect of having it be having amps and real amps and real Okay. Vinny's World says Kahlers are great, a bit expensive, but it's such a beautiful piece of machine. No doubt about it. We've got one floating around here. I love Kahlers, but I don't think that the Kahler locking piece on the end of the headstock was particularly terrific.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people who play Kahlers think that either. Let's see. Curtis asks, is there any sound difference between set neck versus screw? Man, you're going to have to decide on that one, right? I mean, if you can tell, then you're a better man than I. But
I can't imagine there is. If maybe, you'd have to start adding in things like distance. How much wood is touching other wood? How long is the neck in the pocket? How long is the pocket?
How much paint
SG
is
should
on
sound
the neck?
terrible because there's no neck pocket.
There's no neck pocket.
And yet they don't.
Yeah.
So probably not.
He also says all things being equal. The problem is it's very difficult to find all things being equal. It's very easy to find a scale length that's Fender scale length with a bolt on and a Gibson scale. It's tricky to find. Paul Reed Smith has 5 different scale lengths and everybody else has a different scale. If you got paint on the neck, you got glue on the blah, 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 blah. I would say that if you can't tell the difference, then build what you like. We like set necks because that's what we make. We've bolted in our version of the set neck and it worked fine. and I couldn't tell any difference. It wasn't better or worse. It seemed the same.
Yeah.
And the only real way to find out would be get a Strat, record something with it, then glue the neck in and record something with it and see if it sounds different. Because it's all things being equal, it's never that. The neck joint is different. The scale length is different. The pickups are different. Any of those things,
Even if you built two Strats,
they're going to sound different.
well, maybe
Acoustically, I think they will.
Well, but even if you swapped over the pick guard from one to the other, but new strings, old strings, blah blah blah, da da da. People have done all of that stuff, and it's like, yeah. Doesn't it all sound good?
Yeah,
I don't just have fun.
Just have a good time. And how about this? If you are worried about what your guitar sounds like because the neck is screwed into the body or glued into the body or attached with a big lag bolt, I would say get a bunch of guitars. I'm happy to sell you a bunch of guitars, and we can attach the necks any way you want.
Sure,
I'm happy to do that, and you can test and more importantly, you can have a bunch of cool guitars.
You can. Maybe the ultimate setup is glued and then screwed. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. More metal, more mass.
Absolutely.
That might be the way to go.
So it sounds like there's a bunch of commercials happening tonight. I'm sorry that's happening, you guys.
There's a bunch of commercials.
Yeah, it keeps, like, during your live feed.
Really?
Oh,
is that a new thing?
Yeah, I think it's a new deal.
Unbelievable.
Pete asks, Matt or Chris, have you ever pressed in frets in a neck and not had to level the frets? Yes. As a matter of fact, you should have very, very little fret leveling to do if you press the frets in. If you do everything else
This
correctly.
is something that we've talked a lot about. Could I see a piece of fret wire?
Yeah.
So we were talking about, the extrusion process of this piece of fret wire. And our friend Dean was like,
Dean March?
Yeah, Dean March.
Merch.
This piece of fret wire isn't going to be exactly perfect all the way through.
Yeah.
There's going to be some inconsistencies as far as the height. Okay, well, what are we talking about? Well, it's not very much. So if your fret rocker goes bing, 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 it's not the fret wire.
It's not the fret wire.
But if you've done a really, really, really good job of pressing all your frets in, and you've done a good job of pressing your frets in, and you can, do the fingernail test and all of that, and your fret rocker goes bing, 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 it's probably the fret wire.
Could be the fret. It's
the fret wire.
The last couple.
We've been improving our techniques.
We've been working on lots of stuff with fret wire. All right. One of the things you got to have right is your fretboard has to be properly radiused and has to be flat. It has to, if you have to be able to put a straight edge on it and go around the radius, and have to be flat. Okay. If it's not, you're going to have to do a bunch of leveling. Right?
Yeah.
Your fret slots have to be deep enough. If your fret doesn't go all the way in, that's not going to be right.
Nope.
I used to not think this. However, now I am absolutely a proponent of gluing in frets as well as having the mechanical bond from the tang. You absolutely positively have to press them in, not hammer them in, because hammering frets in, what happens, Chris?
You distort the fret. To hit it hard enough. This stuff just isn't hard enough to not distort it, and you whack it, and you put a big giant flat spot in it, because you're not whacking it with a 12-inch radius hammer. You're whacking it with a flat hammer.
That's the best. That's the best case. What's the worst case? You hit it on that end,
and it pops up on this end. Yeah, that can happen too. Yeah. Well, and what happens is, when you're pressing them in, you want the radius to be near dead perfect, or slightly over radius
on nickel steel.
On nickel steel.
On stainless, you want it to be damn.
Pretty much the right. But you hit it with a hammer, you put a flat spot in it.
Yep.
So now all of a sudden it's not the same radius. Took us a long time to figure that one out.
Yep.
So what was the question?
Have you ever been able to do it without having to level fret?
I've come really, 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 really close. I ran over it with like 600 grit sandpaper, identified my high ones, ran it over with 600 grit, knocked that, rounded it over, didn't have to use the Z file to round them over, and polished them up, and they were perfect.
Doc says that once he engages the fuzz on his amp, it doesn't really matter if he has a little bit of, just go ahead.
Yeah.
Grudgemeyer, what about radius fret slots? Sure. What about it? I don't think it's a big deal, but yeah.
Radius fret slots.
So in other words, our fret slots are flat.
Yeah.
They're not radius with the board.
Yeah.
However, sometimes what I'll do is I'll radius so much of the fretboard away that I have to chase the fret slots, and then then they actually have a radius.
You'll drag them that way. Yeah, I try not to.
It's not, but don't worry about that. You're gonna fill the bottom of that slot up with glue anyway.
That's one of the things. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons to glue them in, I guess. Some people claim they can hear a difference.
I would be willing to bet. I'll make $100 bet. Then I'm gonna build a guitar for myself, and I'm gonna glue in every fret but one.
Okay.
And if you can tell me which one it is.
All right. All I know is
you got a 1 in 32 chances of finding out.
Okay. 1 in 32.
I'm going to be putting in a lot of frets.
Yeah. That seems you're building a guitar, Lynn.
I'm not going to be like, there's only 20 frets.
Okay.
Yeah.
All I know is that our friends at Stu Mac, when I watched them glue in frets, the reason they said that they like to glue them in is because they like to fill the bottom of that slot with glue all the way up to the fret. They like the way it sounds.
Okay.
I think that was his exact words. Yeah. So you can talk to them.
You know what, though? I bet you if I just told you that one fret wasn't glued in, but they were actually all glued in, you would be able to,
that's the way
I found it. It's number 5.
Yep, you're right.
Nope. They're all glued in.
It's all
psych.
Yeah.
Ways out. They're all glued in. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah. Don't come here and take any of our guitar challenges.
No, because they're all tricks.
What's wrong with this guitar? Or what's different with this guitar?
That's right.
That's the way we present it. Yeah. I don't know. Is the body slightly smaller? No. It's that there's no radius on the fingerboard.
The fretboard's totally flat. Chris, we have a few moments to talk about some upcoming workshops. We've got one coming up later this month, and then one coming up immediately in October. Let's talk a little bit about them just real fast.
Okay.
So the last one in September is our final neck through workshop, or the final time that anybody can do a neck through guitar. Actually, only 2 guys are doing them though. A couple guys are doing carb tops. Couple guys are doing one guy wants to do a telly, one guy wants to do a baritone.
Baritone jazz master.
These are this one is our woodworking only class with the 2-day paint extension. People misunderstand. They're like, well, should I bring my my pickup rings and my knobs and no, you don't need to worry about that.
Nope. The only thing that I think helps is bringing your bridge. Yep.
Because
it's
even just woodworking
kind of
only, unless you get the paint extension, then it's woodworking and paint.
Yeah. Yep.
Don't
talk about pickup rings.
No, you won't need. Yeah. Well, and I'm not trying to single out Zed because I'd forgotten about that. But in the recent thing, I'm like, don't tell me. I'm like, guys, I need to know what you're planning on building so I can have all the stuff here. Don't tell me what color knobs you're going to use, because I don't need to know that. I really need to know some wide brush strokes here. I don't need any design specs or style
cues. Yeah.
The other one that we're doing first week of first week of October is the final $9,000 Strat workshop for the year. So cool. And Dylan's coming out for that one, and we're gonna have Steve out there. And you know what? We've got a left-handed participant who is building a left-handed Strat.
Cool.
Thus making.
Do you think you'll let me string it up righty and try it?
I don't see why not.
Yeah. I'll cut a separate nut for it.
Yeah. There you go. So anyway, we've got no time left. So guys, thanks for hanging out with us. I encourage you to watch Ike before us next time, and right after we are done, go over and check out Dylan and his lovely wife Leslie at Dylan Talks Tone. Tell them the guys at Texas Toast sent you over. I'm sure they're probably going right now. So we're going to go ahead and log off, but we will see you tomorrow for a cool reveal.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys. Thanks for hanging out.